Hey, happy to have you back in Lessons in Leadership. It starts with you. What follows is an excerpt of my interview with an exceptional human being, a great family man, a successful entrepreneur, and what has to be one of the wisest people I know. I'm happy to introduce you to Chip Harris. Take it away.
3, 2, 1.
And we're the best at what we do because we made all the mistakes. Let's just make that mistake once.
As we move to the scene ahead, I'd like you to ask yourself a question. Do you have the courage to bet on yourself? You know, to be completely responsible for what happens in your life is one thing, and perhaps it's philosophical. But to throw your own wallet at it is the real test of endurance and who you believe you are.
I had started this third company, Acacia Research, in early 2001. And we had built it gradually until about 2007. You know, I think we probably had about a $450 million market cap, and the business was really starting to grow rapidly. And 2008 hit. And I remember at the end of 2008 looking at my the year-end statements from the various brokerage accounts I had, and like everybody, I was off 60%. I went, oh my God, I didn't even know what stocks I was in. I didn't even know what I owned because I had these pseudo-professionals managing what little money I had. So I decided at that point, I basically took most of what I had liquid, and I bought my own stock, which had fallen from a $450 million market cap at about a $15 stock price down to one and some change. And I went all in at a time when everybody thought the stock market was going to zero. And it wasn't 2.5 years later that the stock had rebounded from $1.50 to $45, and I had bought a significant number of shares and was able to retire by 2012. So those are life's lessons that learned early when things are really tough. If you have the ability to kind of sit back, take a deep breath, and analyze the landscape, those are when I think those are when real decisions are made, and the ones that can be life-affecting, clearly financially. You see the people that bought certain types of assets in the 2008-2009 panic, and it rewarded them tremendously. But I think it's just over and above financial too. If things are really bad and you can take a step back and take a deep breath, whether it's in a relationship or with your kids, I think calmness in the face of catastrophe is something you have to learn from. And learned it with my mentor's company early on when everything was falling around. I didn't really have any skin in the game. I was 25 years old, so even if it collapsed, I didn't have much into it. But it was nice to be able to step to the forefront and work it out, and 3 years later be vindicated that it turned out the right way.
So it's a segment like that has me ask the question of myself, and I'll have you ask it of yourself. Where in your life are you truly all in? Now, we saw with Chip, he was all in on his business and the economic benefit of that. But what I've learned from him is that he applies that throughout the course of his life. And it has me ask the question of myself, and let me ask you to ask yourself, where are you truly all in? Most places we go, it's to get, but in reality, most places we go ought to be to give. A relationship is a place we go to give, not to get. Where are you all in? Career-wise, as a partner or a spouse, as a parent, as a person who's determined to become healthy, to do something different in the community, and ultimately to use your gift. Do you know what it is? And are you all in with it? One thing I can promise you is no matter how in you are, one thing we can't promise and nobody knows for sure is how much time we have. Now's the time to go all in on the gifts you've been blessed with. So by the nature of Chip's business, which is essentially taking patents for folks that don't have the resources to bring them to market and helping those people bring those resources or those patents to market, and then of course having a chance to monetize them for people and then protect them for those folks that don't have the resources to protect their patents. It's a very interesting business model, one whereby which these individuals at his company, he at the front of that company, blazed the trail. And when you blaze a trail with no reference points of how to do things, you naturally are going to make mistakes. What's important here is that you learn from the mistakes, and success doesn't teach us much. It's the setbacks that are the educators or the teachers for us in life. The people you admire most, think about them. Those folks have most likely failed their way forward, learned from those setbacks, and continue their climb. We admire them for great things they've done, We didn't see the hours and hours they put in overcoming setbacks and obstacles along the way. If you study the story of a guy like Chip and Acacia Research, you'll see, yeah, they made a few mistakes, but they got to the top of the mountain from learning from those mistakes, persevering, and doing something other people told them they couldn't do until they did it.
You don't get fired for making the wrong decision. You can get let go for making no decisions, continually not making a decision, but let's dare to be great. We've got a new business that nobody else did, and we went from literally a company that was trading it for $20 million and it went to well over $2 billion from a market cap. So let's dare to be great. Let's think, and how do we just, really separate ourselves? We developed this industry. Nobody had done this third-party patent monetization, this non-practicing entity we're the biggest and the best. We're the best at what we do. And we're the best at what we do because we made all the mistakes. Let's just make that mistake once.
So a great question to me is, what are you best in the world at? I heard Chip talk about their company being at the forefront and they're best in the world at it. Well, best in the world as a company means that best in the world exists as an individual. So as an individual, and then applying it to your company or to your family, what are you best in the world at? What's your greatest gift, and what percentage of time do you spend using it? I remember years ago being in Japan. And this is when the Japanese came in and caught most manufacturers in America and certainly Germany flat-footed in the automobile game. And we were touring factories in Japan. And as we were touring factories in Japan, I was really taken aback by the amount of American car companies being taught, acting as students in these classrooms in these manufacturing facilities in Japan. And I remember saying to the folks that were taking us through, the locals, I said, how in the world can you have all of your competition right here in your plant and you're teaching them how to do the things you're doing? And they said to me, Mac-san, which was a sign of affection, it takes us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to do what we're doing, and we're still not there. Nobody could come in here for an hour or 2 hours from a course and replicate what we're doing. We spend all of our time on it. Plus, we want to build those relationships because you never know where the future's going. So what are you best in the world at? You learn by doing. And in the business aspect, have the courage and confidence to hire people that are smarter than you, get out of the way and let them do what they're best in the world at, and learn by mistakes, not to replicate those mistakes, but to move forward. And not to get distracted by shiny objects, believing because we've done this really well in the past, it will continue to happen that way. As Chip pointed out, is be prepared to ask the other questions of what if it doesn't work, what if it goes wrong, what if this market changes, what will we do, are we prepared, what is plan B, and let's not get comfortable, there's a lot of work to do. So I want to ask you a few things that Chip has asked me. Do you invest in yourself and in the development of your potential? Hey, are you willing to bet on yourself? Do you know what you're best in the world at? And do you want to be best of the best? If I could offer anything, I'd suggest doing something that was strong advice given to me. Study emotional intelligence, because our setbacks are the things that can spring us forward if we're present enough to see the upside in the storm.